Should Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat? This has been a question that's kind of been looming around. It's kind of been a part of the whole Baker conversation. It's also been a part of the conversation to bring in Deshaun Watson. And there's two, I think even three different camps on this, on if Kevin Stefanski is on the hot seat this year. Me personally, not saying if he is or is not, I have no clue. But if you're asking me, should Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat, I would emphatically say no. Emphatically say no. He shouldn't be on the hot seat. Yeah, I know that some people like to draw the parallels to Baker Mayfield. I don't think they're as strong, given that Kevin Stefanski has only been here 2 full seasons. Baker has showed us 4 seasons of up and down work. That's why ultimately they had to move on. Now, if we get to 4 years of Kevin Stefanski and it's good year, bad year, good year, bad year, it's going to be time to make a decision on whether he's the right guy for the job. But given that we're in Kevin Stefanski's 3rd year, and this is the most competent that a Browns team has looked coaching-wise in quite a while. And I know that sounds like a shock because so many people, including myself, were complaining about the coaching and the play calling at some times during the year. And again, I don't want to get too deep into why I think the play calling suffered last year. I don't think all of that was on Kevin Stefanski. I think a lot of that was about execution in the pass game just not being up to snuff at all. And that really affecting what you feel comfortable calling, right? When you don't feel comfortable feeling like you're going to get the right play call or the right decision made in a passing set, you don't feel comfortable going to them as much, and you want to go to more simplistic sets that have less options but are also a lot easier to defend if you don't catch a defense off guard with it. So I think a lot of that came into that last year. Also, I think he is an excellent coach, still is. I think his offense has proven to be good when he has the right pieces in front of him, and I don't think he needs an abundance of right pieces in order for things to be good. I just think he needs enough, given that in the 3 games where they did not have the starting quarterback in last year, they were able to cobble up a good enough offense to be able to win 2 of those 3 efforts and almost win all 3 of those efforts. That has a lot to do with the coaching. I've said this before. The fact that they were able to win a playoff game without him being there is a big credit to his coaching ability. So because again, 99% of what a coach does isn't on the sidelines. It's really in the week of prep before. So the fact that his prep was so strong that they did not need him on the sidelines is a testament to the kind of coach that he is. I think we overrate the game day part of being a coach. And I think that stuff, the Monday to Saturday stuff is the most important stuff for a NFL head coach. All of that goes into why I don't think he should even be sniffing the hot seat. And then you add in the whole, we don't know how many games Watson's going to play thing. I know some people have said it's going to be 4. Some people have said it's going to be 17. My general rule of thumb with any situation like that, and look, we've been through this with Josh Gordon. When the range is 0 games to all of the games, that tells you should have no expectation, one way or the other, of how many games the suspension would be, right? Because we did this with Josh Gordon, where it looked like Josh was going to get no gains because they found a B sample that was under the new threshold, but it might be tested under the old threshold, but they're going to appeal and he's going to get no games. And then he got an indefinite suspension. You had to reapply and then get back in, right? Like, we've been through this before with Josh Gordon. I would say with this, it's a lot different of a process because with Josh, he failed a drug test. The NFL had clear and obvious proof that he violated the policy with the Deshaun Watson situation, that is a little bit more mucky, right? We don't know what's going on, what the evidence is, what the league has presented as evidence, and how that process is going to work. But that should even be more of a reason for people to assume that we know nothing in this situation, and there should be no expectation on what the suspension is going to be for the Cleveland Browns starting quarterback. So I think he gets a pass for last year. I even think to a point he would get a pass for this year. Now, what do I mean to a point, a pass for this year? The expectation is still to be at least 500, if not over 500, because you can't really be under 500 anymore, but at least around 500, and a playoff contender for most of the year, right? If not in the playoffs itself. If worst case scenario, Watson suspended the whole year, or he suspended a quarter of the year, or whatever it is, the expectation should still be above 500 and a real chance at a playoff berth, right? If not, if Watson's here for like the whole season, let's say in the magical scenario, he gets no games or whatever, even though I don't think that's realistic at all, or just 4, I don't think that's realistic either, then expectations rise a little bit. Now it's you got to make the playoffs, right? Or else people going to start looking at you funny, and then he'll be on the hot seat next year. And then as far as how far you go, well, that all determines on how things feel, right? And that's another point I want to get to real quick about expectations. My expectation of the season right now is irrelevant. Your expectation of the season right now is irrelevant, because what happens every year? Our expectations are never going to be set based on what we set those expectations to be in the offseason, when we have the least amount of information about the current football team. That's never the case, right? You never go back at the end of the season, and like the Steelers in 2020 is a great example. Do you think Steeler fans think that season was a great success because they went 11-5 and they did not expect to go 11-5 before the season? No, they think that season is kind of an embarrassment because they lost the last 5 games in a row and they got beat down by the Browns in the playoffs. You know what I mean? So the expectations change throughout the course of the season. That's just facts, right? And whatever your expectations are going to change. If the Browns jump out and they go 4-0 the first 4 weeks of the season, all of a sudden expectations are going to change. What gets coaches fired is not if they lose, it's when and how you lose. So if you start the season off strong and you stumble late and then you fumble your way out the playoffs, you pull a Cliff Kingsbury, that's a fast track to get you fired, because you can only do that 2 times, right? Like, people aren't going to put up with that very often in the NFL. Even if you can point to it and say, hey, we went over 500 both years. See, look how great of a job we've done. If you fumble at the end of the year or in the playoffs or something like that, and you're consistently doing that as a coach, people going to look at you sideways. They're going to want you out of town. What puts a coach on the hot seat isn't really anything that's hard numbers. It's more of a emotional thing that puts coaches on the hot seat. When you feel like a team was good enough and you feel like that team let you down and you feel like it's the coach's fault. It's never an analytical breakdown of what happened that gets a coach on the hot seat. It's more about feel, and that's fair, because coaches, while they do operate in the X's and O's business, their job is the people business, right? Their job is to work with those feelings, to manage those feelings within the locker room, within the building, and to some extent in the fan base. And that's what gets them on the hot seat, right? So if Kevin Stefanski comes out here and he starts out 8-0, and then Watson comes back and then they finish the year 10-6 or 10-7, people gonna want Stefanski fired, and he's probably gonna be on the hot seat next year, right? Like, that's gonna be the reality of it all. But in that same vein, if Kevin Stefanski came out here and the Browns offense, let's say Jacoby Brissett was terrible and he just looks inept, just bad, and the Browns 2-6, Deshaun Watson comes back, Browns go 10-7. All of a sudden, we're excited, right? It's about when you do it. The expectations are up. We're not wanting Kevin Stefanski fired because now we can say, see, when you give him a real quarterback, he's a pretty damn good coach. That is the key of this whole thing, right? Whenever we're talking about a coach being on the hot seat, it's really about emotions. It's really about how people feel about the situation. So should Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat? I don't think so. Will Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat? Very likely he could be on the hot seat, right? It's likely he won't, but it's also likely he could. Well, that don't work out with math-wise, but it's a fair chance that he could end up on the hot seat because this season can break down in a number of ways that will put him on the hot seat. I don't expect it because I have faith that Kevin Stefanski is a pretty good coach based off of what I've seen from him over the last 2 years. But I've been let down before, so I wouldn't put it out the realm of possibility. And what I mentioned before would probably be what it would take to get him on the hot seat. Because just like the core of the Browns offense, right, has been wiped out and replaced. Baker Mayfield, gone. Odell Beckham, gone. Jarvis Landry, gone. Austin Hooper, gone. Everybody in that passing attack that was the headliners of it, gone. Pretty much. David Njoku's like the only dude staying. And for 2 of these last 3 years, we didn't think he would make the team. So everybody gone. Even Rashard Higgins, who's not the face, but he was a part of it, right? Gone. Gone. You've noticed they did that, right? Gone. Why are all those guys gone? Because in 2019, you had high expectations and the passing game was terrible. In 2020, you lived up to expectation. Nobody's mad. 2021, expectations are higher and you fell not lower than you did in 2019 because you didn't go 6-10, but you didn't do much better. And why did you fail? Well, the passing offense was much worse, right? Much worse. When the passing offense failed expectations the second time, when it felt like the passing offense again is what kept this team out the playoffs, they gone, right? Long story short, you only get so many opportunities to let down expectations. So if Kevin Stefanski comes out here in 2022 and the offense looks awful and Deshaun Watson's there for a bulk of the season, that'd be a second time the expectations have been let down. He kind of got the mulligan for last year. It's understandable. But mulligans can be erased if you repeat that behavior. Baker Mayfield got the mulligan for 2019, had another year like 2019. That mulligan for 2019 is gone. Boom, he's gone. That's how this business works in the NFL. So when it comes to Kevin, is he on the hot seat? No, but I think he knows he's a little bit on notice. I think he knows that this offense needs to be good this year. And I think that explains why they were all so aggressive in getting Deshaun Watson, because ultimately they knew if the offense disappointed this season, heads could roll. I don't think Andrew Berry would be gone, but I do think Kevin would have been the first head to roll, or maybe Alex Van Pelt. But heads would roll if the offense did not pick up its game. And I think that explains why the quarterback situation, why they had the urgency on that quarterback situation that they felt like they needed to have, because in their mind, they felt like betting on getting Deshaun Watson for however long you're going to get Deshaun Watson this year would have been a better bet than relying on Baker Mayfield as your only option. That's just my thoughts on if Kevin would be on the hot seat, what it would take for Kevin to be on the hot seat, and should Kevin be on the hot seat. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. But I want to thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great day. Have a good night.